In today's video, I want to combine the old with the new. So I have next to me on the desk the Roland MC-303, the Groovebox from the late 90s. And I want to combine this with the new Euclidean sequencer in Ableton Live 12. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to create some MIDI with the sequencer in Ableton, send the MIDI out through my sound card, the Focusrite, into the MC-303. So as you can see here on the desk, my sound card is here. It uses a MIDI cable to go out of the sound card into the MC-303. I'm going to use the sound 9 from Bank 2. That sounds like this. For the demo of this video. And then here in Ableton, I have a MIDI track that I'm gonna generate some MIDI on. So the MIDI goes from Ableton to the MC-303, and then the audio is recorded in through the sound card into Ableton on a audio channel 2 here. So that's the setup for today. And just to back up a little bit, a Euclidean sequencer, what is that? Well, it's a type of sequencer that is based on Euclidean rhythms. And it involves using the greatest common divisor of two numbers to place hits in a sequence as evenly as possible across a set timing division. But I think it's easiest just to show you how it works in Ableton. So let's dive into the MIDI clip in Ableton and let's generate some notes. What I did is I created a MIDI channel with an 8-bar MIDI clip. There's nothing on in terms of effects on this clip, just an empty clip. And then under generate here on the left, there is a bunch of options. The last one is Euclidean. And then you get this kind of interface. And as you can see, there are two tabs. So there's pattern and voices. So the voices, there are 4 voices. They have a pitch and a velocity levels. And as you can see underneath, there are steps, density and division as the parameters. And then there's a generate button. So the first thing to do is just to hit generate. And as you can see, there are 4 voices. So there are 4 notes generated and they correspond to the values here. I'm going to pitch them up so that we are playing in a higher octave. Let's do it a bit more like this. As you can see, the notes are very closely spaced to each other, so let's change that as well. Let's do it like this. I leave the velocities at 100 for now. And now we can change the pattern. So as you can see now, there are 16 steps and the note density is 8. So basically, there are 16th notes and there are 8 in a bar. But we want to change this. So let's lower the step count and also the density. And maybe we do uneven numbers, 11, 7. Let's see how that sounds. So it's interesting, it's not exactly what we want. Let's lower the step count even more and the density. So one of the problems now, of course, is that all the notes have the same velocity, so it sounds very rigid. You can change the velocity per note in the Euclidean sequencer, but then it's 1 velocity per note. So if we lower this one, they lower all the notes. So instead what we want to do is we randomize all the velocities. So we're going to use the velocity randomize of the clip when selecting all the notes. This looks better. So the pattern is a bit static, so let's change that a bit. Maybe do 11, 7. And every time we generate new notes, we need to randomize it again. And now we have something like this. And let's add a little bit of delay on the incoming audio. So as you can see, it is quite interesting to generate these rhythms and play a little bit with the different parameters. So now with some different settings, I did steps 9, density 5, division, quarter notes. And I lowered the filter on the MC-303 a little bit. So the filter cutoff frequency sounds like this now. And then you can change it really to something much more dense and intense by just changing the division to like 16ths or 16th triplets. maybe 16ths instead. So the way I would use this is just to generate these patterns and then play around with at least a filter frequency cutoff on the MC-303, and then just record these entire passes into Ableton and then maybe chop them up or use them as is, of course with different sounds as well. So this is one synth sound, but then I would use it for different synth sounds. And for the bass, for instance, what you can do in Ableton, you can just turn off how many notes you want. So you can just say I only want one note, and then maybe lower this to a bass octave. So let's say I'm gonna lower it to an E1. So let me load up a bass patch on the MC-303. So this is from the same bank 2, sound number 13. Let me take off the delay. So now we only generate one note, it's an E1. Let's make the division quarter notes, and let's see how that sounds. Let's lower the density, but then amount of steps. So maybe this is the bass line we want, but then it's very monotone. So then we just manually move some notes, maybe in the second bar and also in the last bar. Then we randomize the velocities. So as you can see, you can use it for different purposes. You don't have to generate chords, but I feel it shines more when you generate chords than when you do single notes for a bass line. But of course you can get inspired in this way in any case. That was a quick video on combining the old with the new, the Roland MC-303 Groovebox, which has good retro sounds in them that you can still use, and combining it with a generative sequencer, you can really take these old sounds to a new level and get inspired to use them again. If you don't have a Roland MC-303 at hand, I have a sample pack where I sampled all the melodic sounds of this box. So go over to Gumroad, download that sample library if you want to play with these kind of retro sounds. As always, keep making music, keep doing sound design. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.